You're listening to Discography Discussion, episode 256, Silent Planet. Hosted by Dan Terry.
It's everything I love about a bone-crunching metalcore album. It has 9 songs. It is 19 minutes long.
Geoff Kane.
I thought that was a typo at first.
And Joseph Wren. It's like Dan came in the room and said, guys, I really liked the last record, but I think this one should be darker. Presented by discussmetal.com. And if you're standing outside on a desert planet staring at the second sun, then you are ready for this episode of Discography Discussion. I am Joe, that is Dan, that is Geoff.
Dude, when did we end up on Tatooine?
Dude, we're on Tatooine tonight.
Yeah, on a desert planet looking at the second sun? Fuck yeah.
1,000%.
Well, the planet is only silent, Geoff, if you have really good headphones, which I'm selfishly admitting that I now have a sweet fucking pair of headphones.
Yes, Joe bought a financially irresponsible set of headphones, which is fine. I'm just wearing $20 cheapies, which is why I sound how I sound. And everybody else sounds how they sound. Actually, I don't know what Jeff's sporting over there.
I'm supporting Joe's little brother.
Well, that's fair.
Yeah, seriously, I've had them for like 6 years, and they're fucking great.
Mine don't even have a brand name on them. It just says headphones.
Yeah, I got the baby MDRs. He's got the bad boys.
Nice.
But you know, there's 2 wires, one for left, one for right. I get a nice thick 2-wire cord here. So, you know, all in all, I can hear right from left real good.
Silent Planet, gentlemen. Did you enjoy your week as much as I did?
Oh, I enjoyed some Silent Planet, as I have enjoyed Silent Planet for quite a while. I liked the C.S. Lewis book, Out of the Silent Planet, but I am happy to be listening to the band Silent Planet for this episode of the podcast. And I think that the weird thing about Silent Planet is that they're a band that, like, I heard them a long time ago. I'll say like maybe 2015 or so. And I was like, oh, this band is just Oh Sleeper 2.0. And I didn't really pay much attention to them after that. But I'm glad to say that eventually I did come around and I listened to what they had to offer. And I do think that they are similar to that band that I mentioned. But I have a short attention span. I don't remember what band I mentioned. But I do think they sound an awful lot like them. But I think that they are masters of atmosphere. I think they are masters of soundscapes. And if you are going into this thinking that this is just a metalcore band, you're right. There is a metalcore band. It's almost like somebody's making a pure mood CD and there's a metalcore band in the room, like kind of almost interrupting the process. But it turns out sounding good.
Yeah, well, it's definitely Jeff's atmosphere. It 100%. I mean, this band was made for me. I mean, that's probably the easiest way to put it. This is everything I want, except
really everything.
Pretty damn close. I do have some vocal delivery concerns at times.
Oh, no.
It gets a little too staccato-ish and I guess new metal influenced for the type of music that I'm expecting to hear. But those deathcore vocals that show up, midway through the discography, I mean...
Fit for a King called They Want Their Breakdown Back.
It gets to the really good stuff.
Really fucking good stuff.
Yeah, especially the latest release, Iridescent. They dropped that vocal styling at that point 100%, and they just go full bore into just greatness. At least that's my opinion, but hey, what do I know?
Dan said, Oh Sleeper. I said Spirit Box in my head. Throw in some Fit for a King. This is an atmospheric modern metal masterpiece of a band.
It's one of the easiest listens we've had in a while. I mean, it's really good when I'm nitpicking about vocals about a genre that I also like, which is new metal.
Yeah, when I found out that I had to listen to Silent Planet this week, I was like, oh no, don't threaten me with a good time.
Yeah, this was. I think I finished my homework in like one night. I think I'd listened to everything since this, it's been, we're recording, we listened to this over Christmas and New Year's break. So I think I did everything in one night, listened to all 4 albums 3 times in one evening. It was a long evening, but
yeah, I did a lot of working from home work. So I blasted my stereo as loud as humanly possible. So I think I made it through these 4 albums 2 or 3 times per day. The other band that I was supposed to be listening to, kind of interspersing those in as a palate cleanser. But you guys won't find out what that band is until next week.
Till next time.
Well, before Dan gives out some more spoilers, I'm going to take this time to say thank you to everyone for listening to the podcast. Thank you for listening and for subscribing. If you are not a subscriber, then you can find everything Discography discussion at discussmetal.com. We are on Spotify, Apple and Google Podcasts, TuneIn Radio, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. So if you have an Amazon Echo or a Google Home, you have no excuse. Ask it to play the latest episode of the Discography Discussion podcast, and it will. We're also on Facebook and on Twitter at Discuss Metal. Be sure to like, favorite, and subscribe. It really helps us out. It lets us know you're listening. And now Dan is going to tell us all about 5-star reviews.
Hey, we do enjoy some 5-star reviews here on Discography Discussion. And if you guys want to leave us a review, you can do that on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. I think you can do it on Spotify now. I don't use Spotify, guys. You're going to have to let me know how that works. But you know what? More power to you. Leave us a review wherever you're able to. Send us an email. Tell us we're doing a great job, because somebody did that this week. And I was like, thank you for sending me an email telling me that I did a great job. Okay, he told us we did a great job, not just me. I'm going to read that email right now, if that's okay.
Go for it.
All right. Well, Matt Jones sent us an email. You can email us too at danandjoeshow@gmail.com. He says, great job, guys, except Geoff. He says in really small text next to weird. Okay. It says,
that's all right.
I'm a Keckle forever. No, sorry. It says, I'm a newish listener that has been catching up since last summer and has enjoyed it immensely. You guys, would you guys consider diving into the libraries of Vision of Disorder, Skin Lab, Screw, Snapcase, White Zombie, I Hate God,
Ooh.
Cradle of Filth? Yeah. Amen. 20 Dead Flower Children. Sounds like a super happy band. Stuck Mojo, Buried Alive, Frontline Assembly, or even the short set of Acid Bath. Hope these suggestions join your roster. Keep up the great work. Matt, thank you so much for all those. And that's Matt Jones, not Matt Nas. Just to clarify there for a bit. But yeah, keep those suggestions coming. I can guarantee you that at least 2 of those bands are on the list for 2022. I was like, what year is it? And so yeah, we'll get to a few of those and we'll keep them in mind for the next.
I heard Stuck Mojo. Jeff says, yes, please.
Yeah, I say the same thing about Frontline Assembly, but that's like 20 albums. That's a lot.
Yeah, 20 records, huh?
If we do Industrial
It's
December,
close.
Dangerous Dave over on the Discord server said, Happy New Year, Dan, Joe, and all. How you doing, all? I listened to Industrial December in response to the question posed. I reckon you should drop Industrial December if you aren't enjoying it. But get Matt Nas back on. Maybe even try and poach him. By the way, is there a Hate Eternal episode? So I'll answer a couple of those right now. Number 1, there is no Hate Eternal episode yet. but there will be. Triggered drums. The answer to the second question is Matt Nas. We will get Matt Nas back on. I don't think we're going to be able to poach him. He's one of the only people I can truly say is busier than I am on a daily basis. I mean, we can try, but we'd probably have to give him like a truck filled with money in order to get him to come on every single episode. And Jeff's looking at me like, why didn't I get an offer of a truckload of money to be on these episodes? All right, it's enough.
That's
Geoff.
okay.
It's enough Jeff trashing. We love Jeff. We love having Jeff on the show. You know what else we love on the show? We love sponsorship. If you guys want to sponsor an episode of the podcast, you can do that. We are open to that. If you own a business or if you are in a band and you want us to shout out your band, get people to check out those mad socials. Well, did I sound cool there when I said that? Did I sound really cool when I said mad
That was pretty
socials?
fucking brutal, dude.
Did I sound like one of the cool kids? I don't know if I did.
No,
Anyway.
he was brutal as in pathetic, but that's fine.
That's cool. I'm into that. I like the brutal / pathetic. It gives me online credibility like you wouldn't believe. I'm going to go on Reddit now and talk trash about you guys passive aggressively. But seriously, danandjoeshow@gmail.com. Let us know what you got and what we can do to help.
So, Dan, tell me about Silent Planet.
Silent Planet is an American metalcore band from California. And they've been around since about 2009. And obviously, as we talked about before, their name derives from the book Out of the Silent Planet by C.S. Lewis. And this band is honestly one of the best of the quote-unquote newer solid state bands out there. I know, they've been around forever. But for me, anything that came out after like 2005, in my brain, I still say it's new. Because I'm an old person. So if you watch my video on
get
YouTube,
off my lawn.
Yeah, if you watch my YouTube video about top 5 solid state bands or 5 solid state records releases, you'll notice that all of those were from like before 2005. So I apologize for that. But at the same time, I leave no apology. I'm an old person.
Yeah, we're going to talk about The Night God Slept.
2014.
The night that Jesus was night. Yeah, man. This record absolutely blows me away. Even listening to it now. I'm going to get it out of the way now. I got it out of the way earlier, but I'm going to get it out of the way again. This band sounds like Oh Sleeper
a lot.
in their, and I say it, I don't want it to sound dismissive. It's just obvious that these guys dig them some Oh Sleeper and wanted to make a band that kind of gave off a similar vibe. And I would say they sound the most like Oh Sleeper, really just vocally, more so than musically. But yeah, so you've got that kind of yell scream delivery mixed in with some very kind of ethereal, clean vocals, and the band will go from like raging metalcore to these like slowed down sort of chill out sort of moments, and then slowly kind of build back up in intensity. And I'm not a big fan of the clean vocals all the time, but if I'm in the right mood for them, I'm totally here for it.
After weeks of listening to Spirit Box, because Geoff told me it was a great record, it would be impossible for me to listen to this band and not immediately point out the electronic feeling that these modern metalcore bands are always putting into the mix. Yes, it has the atmosphere, it has the vibe, there's reverb in places. We weren't used to hearing it for the past 15 years at that point, but it just creates a smooth vibe. It's a very calming feeling when the music on the bottom is very aggressive, but the vocals on the top are very soothing, even when they're being aggressive. I think Oh Sleeper is the best way to describe it. And no, it doesn't let up for the entire discography. Spoilers, this one's basically a sure thing for me, but it's that breath of fresh air that always breaks up the listening for me when we're every single week listening to a new band. And what genre is this? Is it black metal? Is it grindcore? Is it new metal? Going back and forth between all these different genres. Then you get a band like this that uses those genres together to create an overall soothing product.
Yeah, they do the whole wall of sound thing rather well. And I'm with Dan. The interesting thing for me is the most off-putting aspect of this album is actually the vocals. I think that's the largest detractor that I have on this. Which it's not that they're bad. It's just that I can pick and choose when it comes to that. But it's not bad enough to where, because they're not bad. They're just average to good.
They're a little par for the course for that year.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. They're that average. I mean, it's just what you expect. So it's not that they're it's off-putting. It's just that so it's not off-putting, so it distracts from it. And I think I've said it many times. If your vocals are just so out in left field and so distracting, for me it detracts. It's very hard for me to follow what everything else is going on. So this is enough of just formulaic enough that it doesn't distract for me, and musically it's just a masterpiece, which I can say for all four of their albums. I think musically these guys they hit it in the right spot for me every time.
Yeah, it's very textured. This first album especially, it's very mature for the age of the band. And I think that is one really surprising element. I think vocally, yeah, it's going to be a little bit more. I think there was a period where especially like 2014, 2015, hearing a band like this at that time, I was a little exhausted of the whole, like, here's our screamy part, here's our singy part, and I don't think that they're generic. This is not like an Under Oath situation or you definitely can't tell what they're doing. And I like the emphasis kind of on more post metal sounds that are going on with this record. But yeah, I think that like vocally, I came from a time when metalcore vocals were growled and vomited more than anything. Whereas we saw kind of influx at this time at, post 2010 of bands that were just kind of like going for that shouty, yelly sort of sound. And it got to the point where like every band did that. Now every band does something else, but at the time it was very predictable, whereas everything else wasn't. But yeah, I think this was a super, super strong start, and it only gets better from here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of funny that Joe had mentioned Spirit Box, because one of the producers for this album worked on Eternal Blue. I think they did the engineering on Eternal Blue. So there's some correlations there as far as like the similar sounds that you're going to have. I think producers don't get enough credit as far as the type of influence that they can have on a sound. And this, I forget the guy's name, Daniel Bronstein. He's done a lot of engineering and production work. It's not necessarily that he's like the lead guy, but he's got his fingers in a lot of things. I know he's starting to release some of his own music now, which I haven't listened to, which I probably should, because pretty much anything that he's helped engineer or help produce, I've generally liked. Just about everything that he's had a bit of an imprint on. But yeah, this it's a great album out of the whole. I mean, it's like Dan said, though, this is it's almost like an overexposure. There's just so much of it at that time. It's almost like whenever kind of reason why we like doing Nu Metal May, we find like these awesome nu metal bands that we were like, at the time, it was such overexposure, we didn't realize how great they were. And we go back and we listen to it and we're like, why weren't we listening to it? And the problem was just because there was also 20 other bands doing the same thing. And that's kind of how the first album is for me, at least. The Night That God Slept is a great album. It's just there was so much that was already out there. It was just we were already inundated with what was available, and it wasn't enough different to make it to where it stood out that made you want to strive to go listen to that in particular. It's not that it's bad, because it's not bad at all.
Then 2016, the band brought Everything Was Sound and kicks it right off with the most modern metal sounding Me Without You reference I've ever heard, because that's something that's missing from this type of modern sounding metal for me, is the raw, aggressive shouting. Then they drop right back into the formula. So here we are again. It's not just the next record by Silent Planet, because they pick the vibe up very quick. Doesn't mean it's a bad thing.
So this one I noticed right off the bat was a lot more post-metal influenced than the previous. Obviously these guys now are listening to stuff like ISIS or Cult of Luna, or maybe not. Maybe bands that were influenced by those bands, or even stuff like Rosetta to a lesser degree. But you've got a much more slow pace and more of a focus on just bone crunching heaviness on the riffs. And this is where it kind of, if you had to put it in a genre, which, you don't have to put everything in a genre, it's still going to be metalcore, but it's definitely got a little bit more of that like genty, darker sound to it. And the vocals are just as desperate and just as gut-wrenching as before, if not better. I think the vocal performance on this is switched up a lot more and more focused on the heavy vocal than the clean, which is never a bad thing in my book.
This album has more of that staccato-ish sound to the vocals. I do have to say, though, that I was excited whenever this first came out, because Will Putney produced this one. So
Will Putney.
Heavy. Yeah, I know exactly. Then that's the reason why I was excited. I was like, okay, this shit's gonna go down. This is gonna be good.
Put this on my sure thing list.
Yeah. So that in itself made me pay attention. Back in, it wasn't that long ago, was it? 2016. It's not that long ago.
Not that long ago. Like I said, new band. I don't care what anybody says. Fight me.
The one thing that I have to say is I don't know what it is. I like how simple and clean the album cover is on this. I really, 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 really like it.
Just bright pop in color. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all white with all the color, and it's just it's fairly simple, and I just I don't know what it is. I like it. It just kind of for a metal album, it stands out. Like, so like when you're going through and you're flipping through and you're going through the metal stuff, this one will pop because everything else is just so, dirgy and dark and dirty and vulgar. And then you got this, it's super clean. That's the kind of stuff that used to like draw my eye back in the day before digital media and digital content was a thing. I just think I ought to give it a shout out because that's just me being I used to run at record stores, so stuff like this just kind of piques my interest. So I always love seeing things like this that's just different from the norm. This is what would make me buy this if I was in a CD store.
It's the opposite of what you're expecting.
Yes, exactly. I was like, this is not where this is supposed to be, so I got to listen to it.
I thought what I was going to get was a record that spent a lot of time composing the music around the color theory, because there's that theory that sound has colors or moods have color. And I don't know how to make a reference to Between the Buried and Me's colors, but that one basically gets it right. I don't think this one was the same vibe or even trying to be the same vibe, but I agree with you. It's a nice, simple, but different record cover that I don't really know what the first one was supposed to be, but this one I really don't know what I'm getting into, and that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's kind of the whole idea.
Tool theory, that what you see is not necessarily what you're going to get. The point is what the music is, not what the album cover says or looks like.
And let's be honest. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
What I'm surprised by with this record is the band's ability to write complex songs that are based around these sort of like post-metal ideas, but to present them in shorter, like 3 to 4 minute song lengths and get their point across much faster than a lot of other bands that sound like this. Typically with post-metal bands, you're looking at like, anywhere between 7 to 10 minute songs that take forever to build and sort of have their own like vibe for each song. Whereas with Silent Planet, I think they keep their vibe consistent throughout the record, but they borrow those elements, those post-metal elements, to pull the heaviness out of what would otherwise be digestible metalcore songs for that year. So like they did a really good job of like piquing the interest of somebody like me who already, at this time had kind of written them off as just another metalcore band, to hear this level of growth just between the two records, I think is really impressive. And I also like how they're able to keep it digestible, but also introduce us to kind of this soundscape that you don't usually get with bands that are on this label and on this time, which I know the label doesn't mean anything necessarily, but I guess what I'm trying to say to make it short is this, that like there's a lot more to this than meets the eye, but the band also doesn't like fall into like progressive territory and start going off in directions that are too far from home base.
Yeah, the other thing that drew me in, and I figured probably for all three of us, was Nervosa. I think everybody wanted to check that out when it first came out because Corey Brandon's on it. So we were like, yep, we got to look at that. We got to see what that is. And
love some Corey.
Yep. So that's, I know for me, besides, truthfully, it was, what helped them stand out. The album cover was fucking cool. Will Putney, of course. And then you have guest vocals from Corey. That kind of like sealed the deal. It made me want to check them out more. And I was like, okay, maybe they're not a retread. There's something else going on here. These other people wouldn't be investing their time if they didn't think it was worth it. And it's definitely the case. I do like everything with sound quite a bit more. It doesn't mean that I don't like The Night God Slept. It just means that I like everything with sound quite a bit more. The other thing I didn't realize everybody liked it as much as I did too, because it was like number one on the U.S. hard rock and on the U.S. Christian Billboard number one. I hit number one on both, which I could not believe. I thought that was I thought that was a typo at first. So yeah, it's legit. This is a good album. It's really, really good. I don't think it's their best, but it's fantastic.
2018, When the End Began.
Oh man. I'm not giving it points for the album title, but yeah, I'm not going to pretend.
The album title makes me think of like you're waiting for the drop. That's what the album title makes me think of.
All right, boys, here comes the drop.
Yep. The other thing that's cool is everything's in Braille. Did you guys know that? Like everything's stylized in Braille. Like I think that's pretty fucking cool.
I did not know that.
I had no idea.
I see that. I guess I didn't spend that much time looking at the album cover. This is one that I don't have. It didn't have colors. It didn't pop like the last one. I guess
So
it
yeah,
kinda
right,
popped. It's
right
just there's
below the
Braille on it.
planet or whatever that is. That's Braille. That's there. That's the titles in Braille. I was like, that's fucking cool.
Is it just me, or do these albums get darker as they go?
Oh no, they definitely do, and they get better because of it.
Because of the darkness inside of me.
The overall vibe of the band is consistent. You get the same melodic, genty sounding, modern metal, everything. But the individual albums do get darker as they go on. It's like Dan came in the room and said, guys, I really liked the last record, but I think this one should be darker and more dark.
Give me some of that darker dark.
Such evil darkness. There used to be a black metal band called Dark Dark. That's just something that you know now. You can go look up some Dark Dark.
Yeah, I'm gonna go listen to that.
Yeah. Oh boy, Dark Dark. Okay, so When the End Began is a insanely heavy, genty record. Might be their least atmospheric. I feel like this guy was more bone crunching than anything else, which, I'm not going to complain about.
This is the point in the discography where I thought we had another Fit for a King.
Well, where it's just a sure thing the entire way through.
No, where it's just backbreaker for the next 45 minutes.
Well,
I don't know if it's that heavy, but
it's not that heavy, but it's definitely Will's got a stamp on it. I mean, there's no question about that.
Hi guys, Will Putney here. Would you like your album to be heavy and melodic at the same time? Yes! You're welcome.
I gotta shout out the song Lower Empire because it has a vocoder on it, and
Soundwave.
Vocoder vocals are something that I feel like I need to share with the world anytime I encounter it. And it's actually funny because that song starts off like kind of proggy sounding because it has to in order to have vocoder vocals. If you're gonna do a cynic thing, you have to do a cynic thing, right?
Right.
It's just the way it goes. No, I love it. And it's funny because when I heard this song, I thought like these guys are gonna go progressive at some point. I'm glad that it hasn't happened yet because I'll probably hate it if they do. But I like again how they take.
Wow, dude.
Well, I just don't. I don't have time for a 79-minute album.
You still haven't gotten over the contortionist going prog rock on you.
Yeah.
You don't want to lose another baby.
Hey, I got a
they gotta
vinyl
grow up sometime.
I have a vinyl of Exoplanet I want to sell. You want it?
Yeah.
Well, we'll talk about that after the show.
All right.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't want him to go prog. I don't want anybody to go prog. Don't go. You can start. You can start as a prog band, and I can choose to ignore you. But don't put out really great records and then put out a prog record. Just don't do it. But what I like about Silent Planet is that I get all that cool proggy stuff that I like the synthesized vocals and the noodly. I get all that. Love all that stuff, but then I still get my metalcore screams and growls and breakdowns. And let's talk about how the vocals have grown the beard on this record. I think it's fantastic, and I like that this band just keeps it in the pocket the entire time. I talk about Lower Empire being like a proggy song. It's only 3 minutes and 50 seconds because I don't need any more than that to see what you can do. Yeah. I don't need a 20-minute exposition after that of all the possible directions that you could have taken.
Yeah, no, I gotcha. I understand what you're saying. The whole aspect that turns most people off the prog is they tend to get a little too far up their own ass, and then you end up with a 17-minute song. Well, if you can do that and you can break it into pieces that are digestible, which is what I think this band has started to become really good at doing. Number one, you can be prog without being prog. Number two, you can make people like Dan happy because then they're still heavy as fuck. And then you also make people like me happy because I want to have all that shit, but I don't necessarily want to sit there for a 17-minute song either, but I'm happy to do so. I just don't want to sit there for an hour and 52-minute album.
Yeah, that's fair.
Songs from the North.
Oh God, yeah, we don't need any of that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, they're still one of my favorite bands, but fuck, that was awful.
They recovered from that.
Yes, they did. Yeah, they did.
So.
But I totally get what you're saying, and that's what people who dislike prog end up. I think that's the biggest thing is whenever you start just getting so pretentious, you're like, are you fucking kidding me? Just play the fucking song. And that's exactly what Silent Planet does on When the End Began. I mean, it's just like there's no messing around. You can be proggy and not mess around, and that's exactly what they've done on this. And they've really are kicking ass and taking names, and it's sounding good while doing it. And that's a fantastic combination. And I think they're really starting to get into their stride. This is still not my favorite album of theirs.
I have a feeling that's coming very soon, Geoff. In
Jeff's
fact,
like, give me F-bombs or give me Dev.
2021, Iridescent.
This was gold for me. Fucking gold.
That album cover is definitely not gold, Geoff.
It's fucking cool. Can you get any more
talking about
cynic?
Starflyer in here?
Yeah, that too. I was like Cynic or Starflyer, but like that album cover, I'm just like, yeah, that's just like way the fuck out there. And dude, this album is it's in my top 5 for 2021. So I think I give it very, very high praise. This is where they finally, for me, I really, really like the vocal stylings on this. They finally stopped all of the real staccato aspects of the vocals. And I know some people like that a lot, but for me, it just didn't quite fit the music. And here, it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect for me. And easy listen. I go through this. I can't tell you how many times I went through this album over the last couple of weeks, and it's 40 minutes long. It's about where an album should be, but it is it's one of the faster 40 minutes of album listening that you're going to do, because it's super smooth.
Yeah, I definitely, I mean, this is a 10 out of 10 for me. This is all the elements put together in a way that makes sense, and it's heavier, it's bone crushing, it's bone crushinger. Yeah, I'm just going to say it. It crushes the bones better. It's heavy, it's intense, it's very angry. This is probably the angriest album, and just the weird amount of effects and sort of intros to some of the songs, some of the, dare I say, interludes. It all just establishes the atmosphere. It doesn't go into pure moods territory, and it always ends in a satisfying sort of conclusion. I was going to say completion, but
yeah, I didn't know if you were going to like this one as much, because, there is some additional elements, that is, more electronic in nature. Because I know Drew Folk is the primary producer on this. And I mean, he's done a lot of hip hop as well as metal. So he's got a lot of crossover credibility for starters. But I kind of like that you have a guy that's pulling from a couple of different places at the same time. And for me, for whatever reason, it really, really works on this. I mean, I think the growth that they had on this is amazing. I was not expecting this. They went from a very, very good band to one of my favorite albums of the year. I mean, I don't talk about my favorite albums of the year unless they are legitimately my favorite albums of the year, because I'm one of those people that I will grab a handful of albums, then I'll glom onto for the whole year, and I'll just constantly listen to it. And that's Iridescent is one of those for me.
They really became titans on this one. It went from just being a band that I kind of wrote off to being a band that I found to be moderately enjoyable, to a band that I was like, oh man, this is pretty good stuff, to, oh my God, this is my everything this week. And I know it makes it sound really frivolous. My everything this week. But it is really kind of a record that I'll be revisiting a lot. I hadn't even listened to it because I knew we had the band on the schedule and the album had released last year. So I was like, I'll just wait, until I get there. And I can't necessarily say I'm glad that I did wait.
Well, you didn't have to wait too long. It's only been a couple of months.
No, it
came out in November.
Yeah. But yeah, this is absolutely top tier. And it says something to the fact that the band has been going in a far angrier direction over time than where they started. And there's almost kind of this narrative, they started off in like this sort of like Christian hardcore scene, and the type of burnout that we've seen from hundreds of bands at this point, in this, where, suddenly they're not necessarily stoked with all of it anymore. And they get angrier, they get more upset, they call more stuff out. And, it's always great to hear a solid state band throw out a song like Alive as a House Fire. just because it's unexpected. So this is not like a Norma Jean situation where they, say some words that a lot of other solid state bands don't use. It's very clear. It's very in your face. It's very angry, and I love it. It's a good kick in the pants. It's a barn burner, and for me, it's the highlight of the album just because the ending is so frantic and in your face, and everything just kind of falls apart, and I love it.
The modern metal toolbox is in use for the entire discography, but if you wanted to push that in a completely new direction, I feel like Silent Planet does it on this record. When I'm listening to this type of melodic metal, I'm expecting all those things this band has been doing. The electronic tinge, the atmosphere, the drums to be very much syncopated and probably fake, the guitars to be genty, and the vocals to be melodic. What I don't expect is a near Mick Gordon level of dirgy, genty guitars. And somehow this record is just that much more aggressive than the previous. So I don't think modern metal, that sound I've been complaining about for a few years, needed to die. I think someone just needed to improve or take it to the next level. And the next level is not layers and layers of melodic vocals. It's what Silent Planet has been doing.
I don't know how to follow that. I mean, that's good.
Damn, I was like, there's your, what's your final thoughts, Joe?
Final
Jesus.
thoughts this, Geoff. Final thoughts on Silent Planet. Dan.
Man, Silent Planet is just awesome. I know this sounds like one of those, like, these guys are talking about sponsorships. Did they get paid? No, nobody paid us to say good things about Silent Planet. I like the band. And I actually feel bad that I spent a lot of time not listening to them because I expected them to be a specific thing. And I feel like almost the entire point of the band is to not be a specific thing. And they've crafted really good, passionate, honest music that isn't really pretentious. It has the potential to be, but it's not pretentious yet. It just seems honest and heartfelt, but with a layer of finesse and technical elegance that you don't get in a lot of bands that these guys are lumped in with.
Geoff, what about you?
Yeah, I think that's it's a nice discovery as they kind of went from the middle of the pack. It's kind of like a sports team. They have like a stretch run, and you're like, are they going to make it or not? To the playoffs, and that's kind of how I feel like, because by the time that the fourth album comes out, it's just like these guys are perennial contenders. I mean, they're legit. They're just not another run-of-the-mill band. I mean, Iridescent is, if it's, I don't know, how can you build off of that? I mean, I think it's such a great album.
Well, we'll find out in 1 to 2 years.
Yeah. But that's the great thing. That is as well, like you were mentioning that, Dan, is they're pretty consistent. They're not keeping us guessing. There's no 10-year hiatus, and I like what they're doing. I like the fact that they were able to, as Dan has said, you have your entire life to make your first album. Let's see what you can do. Your moxie is built off of what you can do after that, and these guys have improved tremendously over a 4-album span. They're just a great listen, especially Iridescent. I just can't say enough about how much I love that album.
Do you want a sure thing? May I present Silent Planet? You're welcome. What started off as another Geoff band became one of the most interesting, enjoyable listens I've done for this podcast. 4 records with that modern metal tinge that actually get better and develop as they move forward. If Iridescent is the payoff for The Night God Slept, I want to know what they're going to do next, because they have taken a style that has become very generic sounding and kept it interesting for the past 7 years. Listen to Silent Planet. Dan, what's your album of the week?
My album of the week, in my never-ending search for just depraved, angry metalcore, I've been listening to the album Shrine of Consciousness by the band Serration. Imagine if like Zao was evil. That's what this band sounds like. Absolutely bone-crushing metalcore.
It's got my attention.
Yeah, it's everything I love about a bone-crunching metalcore album. It has 9 songs. It is 19 minutes long, and it has
fuck, dude.
Yeah, and interspersed between the heaviness are like Fallout style, like old school, like Fallout, BioShock, like Art Deco sort of songs playing in the background.
Oh, I thought
There's
you were
probably
going
an
to say
actual
Fallout
word
Boy.
for that. No, there's actually like a word for that, but
It's not an
I don't
arms
know.
race, is it?
I don't know what it is. So
I think Dan completely ignored me.
music that's on Fallout.
Geoff, what about you?
Well, I guess it shouldn't come as a shock. If I can't, decided not to do Silent Planet, so I went on a Silent Planet-esque tangent and I went back to 2020's. It is The Way It Ends by Currents. I love that album.
Very
too.
good record. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that album. So it just kind of like stoked the fire, and I was like, oh, I'm going to listen to everything that's like this. So yeah, I went back to The Way It Ends. By the way, one thing I didn't know that Currents did, and because I knew like Atreyu used to do this stuff all the time, and so does Protest the Hero, is they put out all the instrumental versions
cool.
of their albums. So I was like, yeah, that's interesting, especially somebody who likes to sing along with shit. I mean, it's a lot of fun being able to do that without the lead vocals. So yeah, that was fun.
For me, it's Unto Others, Strength. Dan knows exactly what I'm talking about because we are getting ready for the next round of Patreon reviews. $1 a month gets you into that exclusive album review feed. For only $1, you get to hear what we think about Unto Others and their new album, Strength. Spoilers, it's fucking great. Take us out, DFT.
If you guys enjoy listening to this podcast and you would like to reach out to us in any way, shape, or form, you can do that in a lot of different ways. You can send us an email at danandjoeshow@gmail.com. You can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/discography discussion. You can find us on Twitter at discussmetal. You can find us on Instagram at discussmetal. Or you can join our Discord server. We have a Discord server link in our show notes. Check it out. There's lots of cool people on there that want to talk to you. Or maybe they don't. It's impossible to tell. Show up anyway to find out. We have cake. It's virtual cake. Don't show up and actually ask me for the cake, because I'm not going to have any cake for you unless you live like really close to me.
Oh, I thought it was going to be Dan covering cake.
That would be a lot of fun. We could do some cake songs. Joe will get out the horn. We'll make it happen. But yeah, guys, keep on reaching out to us. Let us know what bands you want to hear us talk about. And like I said, if you have a business or a band that you want us to shout out or something, hit us up, danandjoeshow@gmail.com, and we would be happy to see how we can help you guys out. And if you'd like to support us financially on Patreon, you can do that as well. Patreon.com/discussmetal. We have all kinds of cool content in there, and we're actually going to add some new cool content that I haven't even told these guys about yet, but it's going to be sweet. We're going to talk about it when we're done recording, so we'll have more on that later.
And on that note, this has been episode 256 of Discography Discussion. Thank you for listening. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at discussmetal. Subscribe to our podcast everywhere you listen to podcasts, including Google Play, Apple Podcasts, and Stitcher. Visit discussmetal.com for all things discography discussion. And please send questions and comments to danandjoeshow@gmail.com. If you're not a patron, you can become one at patreon.com/discussmetal. We have some sweet perks.
Give me your money.